Hello everyone and welcome back guys to episode 55, season 3, round 8 of the HAAS Road to Glory career mode, where today we're here for the French Grand Prix. Now obviously if you guys missed out on the last video, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. It was quite a crazy Canadian Grand Prix at the end of the day, trying to say that one 5 times over. But yeah, moving on though into the French GP, we have got yet another upgrade on the car. The fuel consumption ECU upgrade has now been completed there. Another engine upgrade. We've really, I think we've almost maxed out the engine here on F1 2019. The progress we've made so far in Season 3 has been quite decent, but as you can see, having a look at some of the other teams, so yeah, just 3 upgrades to go on the powertrain, 8 on the chassis, a little bit more in that department, and then about the same in terms of the area. 8 more upgrades as well. So we've got 20 more upgrades on the car before it's fully maxed out. Having a look though, the racing point is completely maxed out by the looks of it. It might have one minor upgrade to go, something like that. But yeah, 1,020 points on the racing point there. And you can see ourselves and Mercedes a bit in no man's land at the moment. The same can be said for Mclaren. They're not quite in the back markers, but still, you know, a long way off sort of the Ferraris, the Williams, the Red Bulls, everything like that in the HAAS Road to Glory. But let's dive in then. Let's continue on with the season. It's time for the French Grand Prix qualifying.
Welcome to qualifying for this weekend's French Grand Prix. The teams are making their last-minute adjustments before the lights go green and the fight for pole position gets underway. Joining me in the commentary box today, Anthony Davidson. This is really the moment that the pressure picks up, Ant, I think. All of that data from practice will have gone into formulating the team's strategies today. It's obviously incredibly important to the teams to try and stick to the game plan. Is it just down to the driver to execute that?
Simple as that, isn't it, Crofty? The teams clearly have their strategies in place, but now it's time just to let them get out there and do what they do best. But you are right, it really is up to the drivers out there, not just to deliver on teams' predictions, but also to deal with the things they can't predict. Clear focus and a calm head, that's really what they need.
So here we are then, ready for the French Grand Prix qualifying session and driving straight into Q1 here. We'd actually go out originally on a set of the medium compound tyres here. You can see coming through the final couple of corners. It's, you know, we spent the whole Canadian Grand Prix without a mechanical issue, so of course we had to have a DRS failure in the early stages of Q1 here. Luckily, obviously pretty much as soon as you come back to the pits, it does get itself sorted out, and as we head through towards the end of Q1 here, we go on a set the soft compound tyres. They can see we're down in P17. And, you know, over a second up on our second run. That would mean we'd actually finish Q1 up in P10 at the end of the session there. So that's quite reassuring. Clearly shown we've got some good pace coming in to this GP weekend here. And it was looking like we could actually see some changeable conditions over the course of qualifying there. Sebastian Vettel, 1 minute 25.8. That is absolutely insane on F1 2019 here. You know, the pace that some of the top AI have got now. Obviously, that racing point. Rumours, now I say rumours, it's basically just Arabs made a video on it. Supposedly the Racing Point is the highest rated maxed out car. I don't quite know if that's been fully put to the test. Perhaps the HAAS is a hidden gem on F1 2019. That's certainly something I'm banking on here on this game. But going though into Q2, you can see actually having a bit of a scrappy end to our first flying run there. 1 minute 27.9 though. We do sneak once again back into the 27s here. Down in P9 at this stage of the session here, but like I said, changeable conditions were meant to be coming in this qualifying session. You can see fast forwarding right the way through the rest of the session here. The heavens would open, and that would mean, unfortunately for a few drivers there was going to be very little chance to improve here in qualifying there. We would latch onto P10, a couple of tenths ahead of Devon Butler there, and you can see the only real surprise from that session was probably Charles Leclerc not making it through at the end of the day there. But that would mean we'd be into Q3 for the 5th time in a row in the HAAS Road to Glory career mode here. So really, qualifying Q3 should probably be almost expected now in this series. We have really been on a good run of form here. But jumping into Q3 though, unfortunately a very damp and slippery time in this 3rd session here. It was actually quite a surprise considering Q3 is, what, 20 minutes after Q2. The track had basically flooded in the space of 20 minutes here. And unfortunately for me, we wouldn't time our run to the very best of our abilities there. And although usually when we make it into Q3, we find ourselves sat down in P10 anyway, Yeah, this time round it would be P10 by 2.2 seconds, which is probably not ideal at the end of the day there. But it is P10. We did make Q3 once again, and it's time then for the French Grand Prix round 8 of the season here from Paul Ricard.
Welcome to Le Castellet as we return from across the Atlantic for the 2019 French Grand Prix. Reintroduced to the Formula One calendar just last year after an absence of almost 3 decades. The circuit, Paul Ricard, where racing legends such as Alain Prost gave us some Turn 1 excitement before Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel and a commanding victory from Lewis Hamilton gave us a brilliant race last year. What, I wonder, will it have in store for us this season? We have 15 corners here at the circuit Paul Ricard, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. The rain is coming down and making for a slippery racing surface, but luckily there is plenty of runoff available, and hopefully we'll be able to avoid bringing out a safety car during today's Grand Prix. Anthony Davidson, thanks for joining me once again for the Grand Prix. Let's have a chat about Williams. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position. And it's Pierre Gasly in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Hülkenberg, Lucas Faber and Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Norris and Mr. Monaco, Butler, Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo and Grosjean, Leclerc, Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen and Daniel Kvyat. Albon and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
This is a really good starting position for us. Let's try not to lose it.
So here we are then ready on the grid for the French Grand Prix, and it is looking like yet again a wet to dry race here on F1 2019. We've had 2 of these now in a row here, and this has been quite a surprise in recent weeks. We haven't really had many changeable conditions Grand Prix over the course of the entire game, but yeah, last 2 clearly F1 is trying to push us a little bit more at the moment here. So yeah, really going to be interesting to see how we fare over the course of this GP here. It does think the inters are the way to go, so it's not going to be a full wet to full dry tyre Grand Prix. It is hopefully just going to be the inters to the dries. But this is also the first race being done on the 1.15 patch here. The 5 lights are coming on now, and it is 5 lights and it's lights out, and away we go for the French Grand Prix here. Having a look, the new starts compared to the AI, pretty much ever so slightly better there. I think Devon Button did get off to a good getaway, and unfortunately we are going to get swamped as we head down in towards T1 there. Ricciardo would go for a Ricciardo lunge as we head through the first couple of corners there. And that should be a tangle between Lando Norris and Sergio Perez there. Bottas gets caught up in that one as well. So it ended up actually making up 2 places of the start of the French Grand Prix here. So clearly this not worked out too badly on the new patch here. Finally the Xbox side of things has got the 1.15 patch, as well as we head through in towards Sector 2 here, trying to stick to the back of Sergio Perez and Lucas Faber here. But obviously at the moment all it is just trying to work out where the grip is around this French GP circuit. Obviously we actually did the dry tyres wet track Grand Prix in AOR around this circuit, so hopefully a little bit of that can come into use as well here. But yeah, really just wanted to see what we could do at the moment here, where the pace was, where the grip was, everything like that over the first couple of laps here. We've noticed in qualifying Sector 1 and Sector 2 relative to the top AI, a couple of tenths off here and there. Sector 3 was where we were losing all of our time in qualifying. And based on the end of lap 1, it seemed to be the same sort of story in the Grand Prix here. And I'm not too sure whether it's just the lack of aero, the lack of chassis on this car is just a bit more important through Sector 3 here. But yeah, really just losing a lot of time through that third and final sector of the lap though. But we would actually be, losing a bit of time to Sergio Perez, but over the opening few laps here, you'd actually have a look on the gaps. I'm guessing Bottas picked up a bit of damage as well in that first lap melee between him and the Williams, so we were actually losing time to the cars in front, but pulling away from Valtteri Bottas behind us here, so we were still up in P8 at the moment in this Grand Prix here. Everyone set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as we head towards the end of lap 3 there. We're still about a second off though, the top runners in this race here, and losing, you know, 6 or 7 tenths a lap to the guys in front, but gaining, you know, about a second a lap over Valtteri Bottas behind us here. And over the first few laps, though, actually Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen having a little bit of a battle in this race as well here. Interesting to see, you know, Verstappen, no idea what's happened to him over the last couple of Grand Prix. Really just has fallen off the form that we saw from, you know, up to about Spain. He was looking really strong, and then the last couple of races, he has just been nowhere relative to where he should be if he wants to try and fight Sebastian Vettel for that world title here. But you can see him and Perez, though, would be having quite a squabble here. Perez would slip by, and it was really one of those things where if they were side by side, we could make quite a lot of gains. As soon as they slotted back into formation here, we would unfortunately be dropping quite a bit of time as we tried to stick close to them out onto the back straightaway here, losing a lot of time, having a huge tank stop here. 7th gear we fishtail down at the Mistral straight here, and yeah, really does go to show just how tricky these conditions were in the early stages of this Grand Prix though. Verstappen and Perez even, I should say, side by side as we head down in towards the next couple of corners here. Who's going to come out on top in this situation? It does look like it's Verstappen on the inside as we head down the second part of the Mistral straight here. Perez, yeah, he's not going to quite be able to get the run to hold on around the outside there. We actually pick up a warning for track limits. Not too sure what we did there that was so terrible in this race, but yeah, really just trying to stick to the back of Perez and Verstappen as we head down in towards sector 3 of the lap here. And yeah, this was going to be where they were going to be able to pull out all their time. It really does seem to be through these couple of corners. The AI, the traction that they have over myself was absolutely phenomenal as we head down in towards sector 3. But it wouldn't take long before Charles Leclerc had finally muscled his way through the lower midfield there and up inside the top 10. And yeah, he would come basically straight past me as we head on to lap 9 here. That Renault car is, I think, the second theoretical quickest behind the Racing Point at the moment here. And obviously with Hamilton and Leclerc behind the wheel, it is really a lineup that I was expecting, honestly, a bit more from this season, but we just haven't seen it so far in the HAAS Road to Glory crew. And I think the only sort of race we've seen from the Renault boys is obviously back at the Monaco Grand Prix here, and I'm sure they want a strong result here at their home race. But on to the end, though, of lap 10, you can see just how quickly the track had started to dry out here, so we're actually going to go for a bit of a strategy gamble and dive it in onto a set of the dry compound tyres here a little bit earlier than the game was estimating. But I mean, we've sat down towards the bottom end of the top 10. We've got a good 10-15 second margin over Valtteri Bottas here. It was certainly going to get dry enough over the next couple of laps anyway, so we might as well try and take the gamble now and see if we can pull out a bit of an undercut over the rest of the field. They're a nice tiny 2.1 second pit stop. Really can't complain too much about that one there. And yeah, coming back down the very long pit lane here around at this French Grand Prix circuit. We're actually going to come back at about P12, I think, in this race, just behind Devon Butler and just ahead of my teammate Roman Grosjean, who is still sat down in P13 at this stage of the race here. But coming back out of the pit lane, though, obviously it's probably going to be a little bit tricky for the opening half a lap here, just trying to get the tyres up to temperature, everything like that here, just working out where the grip limits are on this set of the dry tyres here. But pretty much instantly, I felt this hadn't been too bad a strategy call here. Understeering a little bit as we head down in towards sector 2 of the lap here, getting ready for the back straightaway here. But just obviously the rain had completely stopped, and this track seems to be a bit of a weird one on F1 2019, where if it starts raining, it basically floods, and then when it stops raining, it basically just completely evaporates. It's very weird around this French Grand Prix circuit. It's almost like a light switch, I'll be honest with you here. But you can see as we head out in towards the the middle way of the Mistral straight here, trying to close it to the back of Devon Butler here, and you can see as the top AI now starting to make their pit stops as well here. The DRS has now been enabled, so we have actually probably been able to capitalise on this just a little bit over the rest of the field here. Charles Leclerc was obviously the car that was ahead of us when we dived into the pit lane here, as we get a bit of a moment heading towards the end of the Mistral straight there through that very daunting fast right-hander there. Certainly a bit more scary in the intermediate conditions here, but obviously with the F1 2019 aero spec, not much of a challenge on the raw F1 2019 cars at the end of the day here. But as we head through the final couple of corners, though, you can see everyone now diving into the pit lane here, so we really, it was one of those weird ones where I don't think we made up much time, but I don't think we lost much either at the end of the day. There might have been a couple of seconds gain. It might have honestly just made the gap that we'd lose each lap due to lack of pace anyway pretty much just even out there, as we'd actually go purple through the final sector there. Charles Leclerc would still be, a good couple of seconds up the road here, and we would still be back out in P9 here, and what was looking like quite an isolated Grand Prix at the end of the day here. But over the next few laps, though, you know, we keep our head down. We were still up inside the points at the moment, and that's obviously the most important thing around this circuit. You know, we need to try and score some more consistent points in the HAAS Road to Glory career mode here, and that's what we were doing at the moment here. As you can see, onto the end of lap 16, though, everyone set the fastest laps of the Grand Prix here, and we would just be trying to settle down into a rhythm here. But over the next couple of laps, so you can see Charles Leclerc 6.5 seconds up the road here, but he was really starting to struggle over the next couple of laps here. Not too sure what happened. I think it was looking like a mechanical issue for the Renault car here, so really not what they needed at their home Grand Prix here. Charles Leclerc, as we head out of the final couple of corners, they're going to be very, very slow there. He's going to play it defensive, but really not much he's going to be able to do in terms of defense there. Around the outside, as we head down in towards T1 there, and now we move up into P8 of this French Grand Prix here. I'm trying to look behind. He hasn't got any front wing damage, so I wonder if he picked up a little bit fighting Sergio Perez here, but it does just look like he was suffering from a mechanical issue at this stage of the Grand Prix here. But that obviously meant that we needed to keep pushing, because if that mechanical issue gets sorted, obviously Charles Leclerc is just going to be all over the back of us once again in this Grand Prix here. And again, like we saw early on in this race, nothing we can really do in terms of defense here. But skipping over the next couple of laps, though, you can see Charles Leclerc drop back a huge amount here, but yellow flags out as we head in towards the final sector of the lap here, and that's Sergio Perez, you can see, going very, very slowly along the start-finish straight here, and that is going to be another position inherited for ourselves in this Grand Prix. As soon as we overtake him, Sergio Perez has registered a DNF in this Grand Prix here, so we're now up into P7 of the French Grand Prix here, and suddenly 2 points has turned into 6 here around this circuit here, but we're still a little bit worried about Charles Leclerc just behind us here, but it wouldn't take long before we get a decision on that as well. Charles Leclerc, unfortunately, with just a few laps to go of the Grand Prix, would fall to the wayside as well here, and it looked like now as we head down in towards Sector 2 of this Grand Prix here, what is the gap going to be both in front and behind us here? The gap to Verstappen up the road, 15 seconds. The gap to Bottas behind us, 27 seconds in this Grand Prix. We're at 43 seconds of no man's land in this race here, and I genuinely don't think I've ever had a Grand Prix like this on F1 2019, where, you know, we've been fairly mid-pack, but nowhere near anyone at the end of the day, though. Bottas will be taking chunks and chunks of time out of me towards the end of the Grand Prix, though. We will be losing a bit more to Verstappen, though, so we'd actually end up, yeah, in even more no man's land by the end of the day there. But through the final lap, though, of this French Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel is going to come through yet again to take another race victory there. Racing Point looking even more commanding at this stage of the season there. Verstappen just in front of me means that once again Seb is going to be able to play a huge margin over his main title rival here. But through the final couple of corners we go, though. It's going to be our second best result of the season, obviously just behind the Monaco Grand Prix there, and another 6 points on the board there. The consistency we've seen recently, what's that, 4-point scores in the last 5 Grand Prix? We really have had quite a big turnaround over the last 2 rounds of this season.
That was brilliant stuff from Racing Point today. What a superb victory. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Racing Point's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the veterans of the sport. They're making their way out to the podium now as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. Sebastian Vettel will be very happy with that result as he extends his championship lead. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Well, it's absolutely got to be Alexander Albon, no hesitation. He put in a performance today that's only going to build further upon his already growing reputation.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Racing Point continue to run away with it out in front. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So there we are then, guys, the end of the French Grand Prix, and it is Sebastian Vettel who takes home the W. 4.1 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton now. I'm sure Renault probably would have wanted the win this weekend, but I'm sure they can't complain too much about a podium at the end of the day. Homeboy Pierre Gasly, who spent a lot of the race actually leading, sets the fastest lap, but made the two-stop strategy there and came through in at P3. Ahead of Hülkenberg, Lucas Weber, Max Verstappen, myself, Bottas, Lando Norris, and Devon Butler round out the point scorers there. And my teammate Romain Grosjean, P11. It would have been his first points in about 18 months in Formula 1 there, but it just wasn't meant to be at the end of the day there. Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, Alexander Albon, Kimi Raikkonen, Kvyat Giovinazzi, and Sainz rounds out the finishes there, with Charles Leclerc in the other Renault and Sergio Perez in the Williams, both not making it through to the end of that Grand Prix. In terms of the Drivers' World Championship, though, that surely means Sebastian Vettel has been able to further extend his lead at the top of the table here. What is the gap up to now? It's up to 30 points over Max Verstappen here. That is insane, just how quickly that gap has gone up in recent weeks there. Hamilton, though, jumps up into P3, now tied with Pierre Gasly there on 103 points ahead of Nico Hülkenberg in 5th. Lucas Weber, Charles Leclerc, Bottas, myself, we actually jump now Lando Norris up into P9 in the World Championship as well. There is Lucas Weber jumps Charles Leclerc as well, and then further down the order, Stroll jumps Giovinazzi, still sat on nil points at this stage of the World Championship there. In terms of the constructors, though, it is going to be no swapping around whatsoever. The Racing Point build up a slightly bigger margin over Red Bull there. Renault just solidifying themselves in P3 at the moment. They're ahead of Ferrari, Williams, Haas. We are now building up a bit of a margin over Mercedes as well. Toro Rosso, McLaren and Alpha still yet to score at the end of the day though. But thank you all so much for watching this video once again. Do get yourself subscribed if you want to see more of the HAAS Road to Glory career mode. Well, we will be back next time out for round 9 of the season at the Austrian Grand Prix.